Have you ever looked at another artist's paintings and wondered, why do their colors seem to glow? While yours perhaps look a little flat or muddy, perhaps just kind of chalky. The answer may have nothing to do with your skill level. It may simply be whether you're reaching for an opaque paint or a transparent one. So today we're going to go over when to use an opaque paint and when to use a transparent one. And we'll also be going over all the benefits for both of them, as well as the cautions you need to take with both. But this information can help bring your paintings to a much deeper and more luminous outcome. So let's get into it. Okay, so when you as an artist use transparent and opaque paints in your painting the right way, it can make your paintings look 3D. It can add pop to your paintings, and it can also add a beautiful amount of luminosity. So right now, let's look at this painting of mine that has a good mixture of both of these so you can kind of see how this works. Okay, so as you see, the oranges are a mixture of both transparent and opaque. The plate here is all opaque color. It's white with a little bit of blue and alizarin mixed into it. As far as the top, let me zoom up the top a little bit. So in the background, you always want that stepped back. So this is all transparent back here. This is a mixture of most of my transparent colors in order to get this darkness here, but I didn't overwork it. So you see some of the browns up here, that's with some of the Hansa yellow and just kind of spreading it around. But if you look over here in this section, there's some reds from the alizarin. So my point being, just don't overmix everything. Let it all spread out with slight color variations. Then when I go down here, the main focus of the painting, and you can see zoomed in here, there's some cool colors in here, which is the ultramarine blue, and then a touch of black because this is the opaque part, and then some white with yellow mixed in it as the very top highlights of that opaque. This under part of the skin is actually opaque as well, but over here where it's very bright, all this is transparent. Hansa first and then a glaze of orange on top of that. All transparent. And then on the skin parts, let me go down a little bit more. Then on the skin parts up here, and then through the middle are all solid opaque colors. But this brings it forward toward the viewer. So I've got some blues in here because it's more reflecting the plate, as per the reflective light episode from a few back or a couple back. And then, and also obviously we have orange and blue, which is something that we learned in the warm and cool episode. So that comes into play as well. All these things, if you put them together, you can create more attractive paintings, more luminous paintings, and paintings that are going to come closer to hopefully what you're after. But everyone is different. So on this, though, you see a little bit of the highlight here coming through. Some alizarin down here, getting more of the shadow of the oranges, which is a transparent color, that alizarin crimson. And then here, the main focal point of the whole painting is this single slice. This is very, very bright though. And I wish it was coming through this camera better, but this whole section was just Hansa yellow. And at first I wiped out all the paint, so it was right down to the bare panel. And then I put that Hansa yellow on. I put this opaque color down here. So again, the two against each other make that transparent color pop. And then just a little bit of the underbody. I did do some highlights of that skin on top, just hitting the light more bright. And you see a little bit of alizarin crimson underneath that shadow. Okay, Oh, and I should point out that it's got reflective light under here from the last episode I went over. So this is all transparent colors in the shadow. Like I said, shadows are further back or deeper, and the translucent helps that. As you see, the sun's coming down this way. So I've got some of the shadow of the plate up here where it's just a darker blue, but then you get some of that reflective light under the lower part of the skin. And shadows deep like this can really separate it as well. Remember, the values are the number one thing. So make sure you have darks where they need to be at the correct value. Okay. And speaking about shadows being transparent, this is what I wholeheartedly believe, because opaque paint comes towards you, whereas transparent paint falls back. So if in a shadow I add some opaque paint, even in that same color as the shadow, that stroke will still stand out more toward the front rather than falling back into the shadow. So some people like watercolor because it's transparency, and others like gouache because it's super opaque. Oil paint is like the best of both worlds because some oil paints are very transparent and beautiful, and other oil paints are very opaque. Plus, it has that beautiful shine to it, that I think everyone loves. It's not to be biased. And actually, I like to know what my audience is. So tell me in the comments, what type of painting medium do you use and why? Whether it's watercolor, gouache, acrylic, whatever. They all have some great parts to them. And I've seen some beautiful paintings in all those mediums. So anyway, let's get back to the topic today. So I want you to understand how they work. So let me show you this graph here. Okay, so when light shines down on paint, if it's opaque paint, it just bounces off of the surface of that paint because it's solid. When light shines through a transparent paint, like this yellow paint, it goes through the paint until it hits a solid surface, such as the opaque paint, and then it bounces off that, but bounces off with that yellow color added to it, like a filter. And now if there's two layers of transparent paint, the light will go through both layers until it again hits an opaque surface and then bounces back through those two layers, capturing both those colors, in this case a transparent red and yellow, making the bounce back color an orange look. Now again, if you had a third layer, like this purple transparent layer, now you're capturing all those colors, which now it's getting more intense because you're picking up the purple, the red, and the yellow, and bouncing that color back to the viewer. And then lastly, if you did paint an opaque or semi-opaque color over those transparent colors, it does totally wash away all that translucency. But this may be something good for a lake or something to where you have a log sitting on top of that water, and that way it looks more like it's floating over the transparent water. So now let's look at some paint and get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so this I just sped up because otherwise you guys would fall asleep. So what I'm going to use is Transparent Oxide Red by Rembrandt. Just put a spot of this out. And then some really opaque paint. This is Terra Rosa by M. Graham. Same color range though. So when I spread the transparent red oxide out, you can see how beautiful against that white paper, how it really thins out to be this bright translucent orange or rust. But with the opaque one, you can see that it's just solid. It blocks everything. And even if I scrape it, you can't get that pink to kind of filter through. It's either scraping right off to the paper or it's going to be opaque where you can't see through it. Now, some artists will tell you all you have to do is thin it down with oil, oil and Gamsol or whatever. And then when you mix that in, you can really thin an opaque paint out like transparent. And this is true as far as making it more see-through. But what I want to show you is even when you mix that so thin, I'm going to do the same thing on the transparent color just to have it so they're both the same type of brush mark and thinned out, so they're somewhat the same value. Now when I slide some text, this is just Mylar that I have this painted on so that I don't make a mess, but if I can zoom in here, you can see that it's just a much stronger paint, because if I thin this out to be the same chroma, the same saturation, you can't see through it. So you really have to make it like water to see through. And now when I zoom in, you can see that the text, instead of being black, it's actually a little more foggy. Whereas when you go to the transparent, the text is still very dark and crystal clear. So even though you can make it transparent, it's not going to be as clear as a transparent paint. Opaque is always going to have a fog or some disbursement in it to where it's not a beautiful transparent glaze. And then now I'm going to lift the acetate and put a picture under it so you can kind of see what it does to a painting when you paint over it. The opaque paint, you can barely see through, but you can see the transparent on the right. It actually just gives a different hue without blurring up or destroying that image. Over here, the opaque, you can see the text. Sorry about it being so shaky. But when you put it over the body, you can see it just distorts it or fogs it up to where it's chalky. Transparent is a beautiful way to use this to tone a picture. Okay, both beautiful colors though. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen my paint color videos, or I hope you've seen my paint color videos, but I cover each color family in those videos. And I go over the transparent colors in that color family as well as the opaque ones in all color families. So I have transparent colors that fit the whole color spectrum. So I can create pretty much any color in transparent paint. So let me show you my color chart. Okay, so we're just going to work at it from the bottom left, which is the Hansa yellow, a transparent yellow, and work our way counterclockwise. So next to that Hansa yellow, or actually two to the right of that Hansa yellow, is transoxide red, transparent oxide red. And between the Hansa yellow and transoxide red is how I got that orange color. Next to the transoxide red, you're moving toward the blue now. We have a mix of the transoxide red and the ultramarine, which all these steps are just those two mix. So we've got a brown and then kind of a grayish tone, a grayish blue tone. Then we have ultramarine in the right corner. We have a mix between the ultramarine and phthalo blue at the top right. And that's the mix between there. Then phthalo blue, a mix between alizarin crimson and phthalo blue to give this purple. And then to the left of the alizarin crimson, we have another mix of this time ultramarine and alizarin crimson to get that purple. Then we go to phthalo green, which is a fantastic, almost fluorescent green. But with that, I mixed the Hansa yellow in the lower left with that phthalo green to get this super bright sunlit green. Next to that, I just added a little bit of transoxide red in order to get that regular green shade, and then a little bit of purple in that mix to get this darker green. Then moving down, that darker green mixed with yellow just makes this really close to a raw sienna. But as you see, pretty much any color you can get from the transparent colors that are out there. Now, opaque paint, I do want to go over the benefits because they both have benefits. So, opaque paint has some great advantages as well. So, I don't want to disregard and overlook how important they are. So, how do you know when to choose a transparent paint or when to choose an opaque paint? So, opaque paint is good for anything that you want to bring forward, or whenever you're creating any structure or solid form. It's also great for highlights, even if it's mixed with a medium to give it a semi opaque look. Also, you'd want to use opaque paint for any thick impasto work. Impasto meaning thick work. I should probably do a video on that sometime, but uh, impasto is beautiful. And if it's done with opaque paint, it could have a transparent layer over it, which falls into the grooves of the paint scrapes and so on, the bristle marks. Okay. So you want to use them on anything that you feel you want to bring out of the luminosity, whereas the transparent paint you want to use in shadows to make them more vibrant or deeper. You want to use them on anything that you feel you want to bring out the luminosity on, or to shift the color or saturation. Color meaning hue. So there's one mistake that almost every painter makes with transparent colors. And if you avoid it, your paintings will instantly look cleaner. So mixing a transparent color with an opaque one can sometimes give you a beautiful opaque color or a different tint. But if you're working on getting a luminous transparent color, you have to make sure you don't let any opaque paint get mixed in with it. That's the biggest thing. Mixing just a small amount of opaque paint into the luminous color or transparent color can give you a chalky look. Mixing too many opaque colors together can also give you mud, whereas transparent colors can never create mud. So let me repeat that. Transparent colors can never create mud. Let me show you a sample of this. Okay, so I put it in hyperspeed again, but these are all opaque colors from oxides. This is a green oxide, and that's a cad red. Mixing it up, and you can see it's kind of brown. This is a transparent alizarin crimson and sap green, and mixing those up, you can see how it's just a little bit cleaner looking because it's transparent. This is cad yellow and cobalt blue to make a green. And this is ultramarine blue and the transparent yellow Hansa. So mixing those up. Now notice in this mix, it's close to the same color, but see the yellow hue around the edges where it goes in? So it's just a prettier transparent color. Now mixing everything together, you can see how the opaque colors on the left get really muddy. I'm going to slow this down because I want you to see the colors on this. Look at right here. There's beautiful colors in the opaque, but look how when you spread this out, you can see how pure those colors are. Just very gorgeous, like stained glass. I have to zoom in because I want you to look at that opaque side on the left too. See the green going through that raw sienna color? It's just beautiful colors the way they mix when they're not overmixed. But then just the transparent side is, I guess for me, it probably is more beautiful. But so just two different types of paint that can give different looks, and I want you guys to be aware of that. On a side note, I see many artists create mud just because they take their brush and they keep pushing their paint back and forth on the canvas. Too many times mixing colors up too much creates mud. So mix the color, hold it to the source and to the painting until it's correct. In both color, hue, and saturation. Once it's correct, lay it down in 1 or 2 strokes, because if you do more, it's going to get muddy. So you don't want to overmix it. So if you're not sure what paints are opaque and what paints are transparent, usually on the back of the tube, you'll see transparent, semi-transparent, semi-opaque, which are kind of the same, or solid opaque. So let me show you the chart that they use. So they'll either have a clear box like these boxes here, or they'll have the name written out. But a clear box is transparent. A clear box with a line through it is semi-transparent. Semi-opaque is black and white triangles. And then opaque is a solid black box. Also, if you're curious as to what colors I feel are best to use, definitely check out those paint episodes that I was talking about earlier on my channel and decide what you feel most comfortable with. But at least you'll have some direction. Okay. So in conclusion though, next time you're standing in front of a palette, don't just ask what color you need. Ask, would it be better to use an opaque version or a transparent one? That single decision can completely change the look of your painting. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something from it. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Usually within a day or two. But I'd be happy to answer them. So please click the like if you like this, and definitely subscribe. And until next time, God bless everyone.